Welcome back to Montober 2025. Got an interesting video for you this time. I had recently got to watch the work print cut of Rob Zombie's Halloween. Why I still don't like his vision for Halloween. I gotta admit, with the exception of one scene that it has in common with the director's cut involving Michael's breakout, I thought this was by far the superior version of his take on Halloween. I kind of wish this cut would get an official release. But it got me thinking about something I've thought about in the past, and I just want to do a video on it. An interesting way to retell the story. I'm not advocating remaking Halloween again. Let's just think of this as a what if. If I was hired to give the story treatment for a remake, in hypothetically speaking, this is both a remake of Halloween 1 and 2, and I would have them, if I had, again, this is just fantasy booking, if you will. One would be released in September of the whatever year. The second one would be released October of the same year. And also, for full purposes, the main part of my story will be set in 1984. I just wanted to have that old feel to it. I don't want this to be a modern film, so I'm interjecting this now because I forgot to say it in my introduction, but this story will be set in 1984. Now, up front, I'm playing around with the timeline a little. Michael is going to be incarcerated at Smith's Grove for a few more years because I'm playing around with things and I need him to be incarcerated longer for this to actually work the way I would intend it to work. So the film begins much the same. He kills his sister, the parents find him, unmask him, and this is after the opening credit scene. And then our first proper shot as the story begins to unfold after he murders his sister, we see the silhouette of a kid sitting at a table. And this scene would be lit in such a way that you could just make out the shape of a human, nothing else. And sitting at the other end of the table that we can get a close look at, or at least a much better look at, is a younger Dr. Loomis who starts his speech out very optimistic and willing to help young Michael. And as this scene plays out, it would be a time lapse over several years. So Loomis's speech would start out optimistic, then doubtful, then more pessimistic, and we would see the shape just get taller as we see Loomis age as his sessions get more pessimistic. But it would be shot in a way that, even though it's time-lapse, it feels like it could be one long session. You would have to have a lot of skill in the editing room, but I just think a scene like this on film would look absolutely brilliant. Plus, you would need a good makeup effects artist to make, just for Loomis to mess around with his age. And then the next scene, Michael's 21st birthday, and this is where he would be going before the judge to determine whether or not he's fit to stand trial. And the way this would work is, again, you would see some of Michael in the scene, but it would be shot in a way where you're just seeing more the shape of him. You don't even so much as get a side view of his face. Michael's face is not going to be seen. And we have Loomis arguing with the judge because the judge is determined he's unfit to stand trial, but he's still going to be incarcerated at Smith's Grove. Loomis, Your Honor, please, I'm begging you. You have to understand how dangerous Michael Myers is. Smith Grove is a minimum security facility, and they're not equipped to handle him. I'm begging the court to send Michael to Ridgemont maximum security. Leaving him here is a mistake. The judge, Mr. Loomis, I suggest you be quiet before I hold you in contempt of court. Furthermore, I find the way you talk about your client to be disgusting. Your goal is supposed to be to help him. So if you want him to stay your patient, I suggest you shut up. Do you understand me? Yes, Your Honor. Good. My ruling is final. Michael Myers is unfit to stand trial, and he will continue to be incarcerated at Smith's Grove. Every whatever amount of years, he will come before the court until he is deemed fit to stand trial. My verdict is final. Case dismissed. And Loomis just walks away defeated. And then when they go back to the room, you can have the scene from the TV cut. You fooled them, Michael, didn't you? But you haven't fooled me. And Michael is just standing there. He doesn't turn around and look, but you see the head tilt as he's looking out the window in his room. Then we fast forward a few more years later, and we have the night where he escapes, which plays out pretty similar, but you can tweak a few things. And Loomis is on Michael's trail. He of course stays. He has to give his statement to the police. We have him chew out Dr. Wynn and drive off to go after Michael. That being said, that night I will have a scene where we have a mechanic with a tow truck. He's driving in the rain. He sees the station wagon on the side of the road, lights on, and he pulls off to examine to see if it's someone that needs help. And as he's looking through the window, we see a silhouette behind him. Then it cuts to the next day. It cuts to Loomis arguing, and we also go to meet Laurie Strode. Very similar playing out, but in this, Laurie's dad would be, okay, Laurie, since we're going away for this weekend, do you want to get dropped off at home by Annie, or do you want us to pick us up when you're done babysitting Tommy? She goes, I'll call you at the party tonight. And his dad says, okay, you have a good day. She goes about her way, meets Tommy, drops off the keys, and we see Michael in there. He's got the mask on at this point. Only the people coming by to look at the house, they're going to be killed by Michael. And that's pretty much it. And then we introduce our other characters, Annie and Linda. We establish a similar dynamic, except one thing I'm going to do, the whole shenanigans they're wanting to pull for babysitting, Annie's like, we can't do those. And in this timeline, Bob lives next door to Lindsay. So the whole thing is they're going to pawn Lindsay off on Laurie because, for a quick explanation, the Doyles and Wallaces are friends, and that's like kind of a known thing. Like, if the babysitter something comes up, just take one to the other's house. And Annie's like, yeah, I was all down for that, but one, Paul's grounded. Two, and most importantly, I found out how much Lindsay actually looks up to me. And knowing that, I just can't disappoint that little girl. And there is some hostility between her and Andy, but Lori does talk some sense into Linda, and Linda just begrudgingly, well, all right, you can have it your way then. And then you still have scenes like we'll have Lori, Michael staring at her through the room, a conversation with Annie saying, yeah, she's seen him around, the guy in the mask around too, and Linda shows up to borrow the blouse, and Linda mentions the same thing, that that guy's been following her around. And you just keep it going. We still have we don't even have to have the whole thing with Loomis finding the dead body of the mechanic, but we can still have it. He gets there, some similar stuff plays out, and he still goes to meet Sheriff Brackett. But before Lori leaves, her father shows up and she's like, yeah, I'll call you at the party. We have more of that back and forth, setting something up. Annie picks up Lori, and they have the drive with Michael following them. Loomis still meets up with Sheriff Brackett, only I'm going to have Sheriff Brackett a little more proactive and less doubtful about Loomis. We would have already had the scene at this point where the people coming by the house get killed by Michael. And we have a few more similarities at this point. We cut back and forth between Annie and Lori babysitting. Annie gets the call that Paul's sneaking out, and they get into a little bit of an argument on the phone because she's not going to help him. Also, I should state now, So, anyway, after the whole back and forth between Paul and Annie like, look, this little girl's depending on me, I can't do this, and we just hear Paul over the phone, well, thanks for nothing, Annie, and we hear a phone slam. Lori calls Dr. Mixter's, that's where the party is, and she wants to tell her parents, yeah, come get me at Tommy's house. We get the phone. Mixter resident. Hey, Dr. Mixter, this is Laurie Strode. Oh, hello, Laurie. Good to hear you. You doing good? Yeah, I'm doing fine, Dr. Mixter. How are you? Oh, good. The party's great. Are my parents there? No, they haven't showed up. They should have been here hours ago. I figured out they decided to call home. I'll stay home. You call your house at home and speak to them. Honey, put my pot of coffee on. Okay, thank you, Dr. Mixter. I'll do that. You have a happy Halloween. You happy Halloween too, Laurie. Bye. Bye, Dr. Mixter. Click. Lori calls home. Nothing happens. She calls a couple more times. Nothing happens, and we see her starting to get worried. And she calls the final time, and we cut to a scene at the Strode house. Phone ringing. Both her parents murdered, and their bodies displayed in a way only Michael Myers would do. So she goes over to Annie's, explains the situation and that she's worried about her parents and she needs to go check on them, that she wants to leave Tommy here for a while so she can, and ask if she can borrow Annie's car to go home and check and see if everything's okay. Annie, of course, good friend, totally supportive. Sure thing, Lori, you do what you want. Lori takes a note to write, Dear Mr. and Mrs. Doyle, something seems up with my parents. I took Tommy over to the Wallaces with Annie, who's babysitting, blah, blah, blah. Be back as soon as I can. I just want to check back on them. But if you get here before I do, Tommy's there. Sorry and thank you. Bye. Annie tosses her the keys. They say their goodbyes. And Lori drives up, and the house has a wraparound driveway, so she pulls out around back. And then she tapes the note to the door, goes in the house, she goes to get her stuff, and then we see Michael lunge out, killing her and pinning her to the wall the same way Bob dies in the original. Yes, Laurie Strode is dead, and this is where we get the iconic head tilt as he's looking at Laurie Strode pinned to the wall. And the next scene, we see the station wagon pull into the wraparound driveway. Just setting something else up here. Now, this is where we get another victim because I'm upping the body count. We see Paul walking down the road. He sees the Wallace house and flips at the bird because he's mad at Annie. And then we see Michael come from behind, snap his neck, and we see him dragged off. Then we get the Bob and Linda stuff, which plays out much the same, only we're not repeating the Bob kill. Instead, he gets a knife straight through the neck. And it's so fast and quick, Bob doesn't even know it hit him. Then Linda and Annie on the phone, and the line doesn't go dead, but Linda still gets strangled with the phone. We do have the scenes play out in a similar way throughout the film at the Myers house. And Brackett doing his own searches, so Loomis and Brackett aren't always together, but Loomis is handed a walkie-talkie by Brackett, so Brackett can keep in touch with him. And then Laurie notices something strange across the street. The house door to the Wallace house is open, as well as Tommy would have seen Michael carrying one of the bodies to the house, and she doesn't think nothing of it, but she keeps looking. And also, Laurie should have been back a long time ago at this point. So Annie is getting nervous, and she just knows something's up, so she puts both of them to bed, and she proceeds to go to the house to check out what's going on. She walks up, knocks on the door. "Hello, Laurie, are you still here? This isn't like you to leave the front door open." And nothing happens. She looks upstairs because there is one light on upstairs, and this is where she begins to discover the bodies. Bob first, then Linda, then in Tommy's room will be the two victims, the people that came by to look at the Myers house. She would have no point of reference for who they are. And then, but just, it just needs to be, I guess it's just more shock value for her, even though she would have no point of reference for who they are. But Michael is kind of turning this house into his personal little fun house, and she encounters Michael. She does get cut up. We see two slices. One hits her across the shoulder, and the next hits her in the leg, over the knee. She manages to escape. She gets in the kitchen, and that's where she finds Laurie pinned to the wall. She manages to pull the knife out. She has the door from the dining room to the kitchen locked, and we have Michael break through to grab the lock. She grabs the knife, slashes at his hand. Then she opens the door, escapes. she manages to get to the Wallace house, and Michael, we don't see Michael pursuing, but we know he's still out there. She tells the two kids to go upstairs. She tries to call the police, but the phone line is dead. And then for reference, the phone she uses is in the kitchen. She stops panicking and after realizing the phone is dead, and she looks and the kitchen door is wide open. Michael lunges out. She dodges another slash, only this time it's on the back of her shoulder. She panics, again, she would have dropped the knife she slashed at him with the hand in, and she grabs a knife from the Wallaces and stabs Michael right through the shoulder. We're not going to repeat a lot of the same wounds as happened last time, but she still needs to get a few hits. She stabs Michael through the shoulder with a steak knife and runs upstairs. She, at this point, tells the kids, run out front door, run down the street, get some neighbors in the next block, just get as far away from this house as you can. As they run out the front door, Michael gets up and walks up the stairs, knife in shoulder. Loomis does run into the kids, and he gets directed to the Wallace house. We have another scuffle, and Annie just narrowly manages to get the upper hand again for a few moments. Then Michael gets up, and at this point it will be in the bedroom. We see him grab Annie and start strangling her as Loomis is running up the stairs, and she gouges him in the eye with her thumb. And this is when Loomis shoots Michael 6 times, and Michael falls out the window. He looks down, and he just goes to the entryway. We hear her, was that the boogeyman? As a matter of fact, it was, and we see Loomis close his eyes, take a breath, because he just knows Michael's not going to be there. Michael's gone, walks out, walks backwards with an expecting look on her face. Film ends as we see a camera POV shot of Michael walking down the street with the Halloween theme playing. And that's how the Halloween 1 segment will play itself out. What are your thoughts? I'm not done yet. This is going to be one big video covering the second one, so due to the magic of editing, I will see you now. Now for my Halloween 2. We would open this up with Michael getting shot out the second floor, only we would see it from street view and him get up and walk out. And then Loomis comes outside, just full homage to the first scene, even the I've been trick-or-treated to death. You don't know what death is. And the film begins. And we have Michael walking down the street with police sirens blaring. We have him cut through a few backyards, and this is where we get our first victim. Someone, hey, you can't be here, leave now or I'm calling the cops, and Michael stabs him. Then we cut to the in and out, Michael stealing a knife from someone's house, and then we have a similar situation where a teenage girl who's home alone gets killed, and then we cut back to the Wallace house. Brackett's there. Oh my goodness, Andy, come here, you're gonna be okay. I'm sorry, Daddy couldn't protect you. It's okay, Dad, I know this wasn't your fault. And he calls one of his deputies aside. You. I want you at Haddonfield Memorial, and when they put her in a hospital room, I want you stationed there the entire night. You don't leave that until it's morning and I can relieve you or we catch this monster. But, Sheriff, wouldn't it be better if you had all your deputies on the street? Don't argue with me! And we have a deputy following them to Haddonfield Memorial. I'm going to need this for later because I'm also going to need a reason to have Brackett taken out of the game because Annie's still alive, only I'm taking Brackett out in a different way. We can still have Michael hear the radio about Haddonfield Memorial and walk there, except this is more of the Brackett and Loomis show where they're still together. I'm not redoing the stupid Ben Tramer thing, but I will have a scene where we see someone in a similar mask fitting Michael's description walking down the street and have one of the deputies panic and shoot him, only for it to be revealed to be a teenager, because I just kind of want to give more reason for the governor to get involved, and a civilian being mistaken for Myers and shot by a deputy would be a good way to do it. So while no Ben Tramer, we're still going to get something similar. And meanwhile, we have a lot of angry townspeople, and we even see, like, I'm not going Halloween Kills. There's no evil dies tonight, but there are going to be angry townspeople on the street. And we'll also have a scene where Brackett's like, Doctor, I need to go to the Strode's house. Someone should tell them their daughter's dead. And when he goes there, he knocks on the door. Mr. and Miss Strode, Sheriff Brackett, answer the door. It's important. And as he's knocking on the door, it pushes open. And we just, Dr. Loomis! Loomis rushes out. And that's when he opens the door to the living room and sees that the Strodes have been murdered. And just, we can have Brackett step outside and just throw up at this point that the stress of the situation is getting to them. And rather than the, why did you let it out accusations, he looks at Loomis, why didn't they listen to you? And Loomis sympathetically, I don't know, Sheriff, I did everything I could. They just didn't want to believe. And now we cut back to the hospital and we get introduced to our staff. Haddonfield Memorial will be a small town hospital. It's not the county hospital. This one, Haddonfield Memorial, will almost be a glorified clinic. It just has a couple doctors, a couple nurses, just a handful of paramedics. Like, it's never a largely staffed hospital. In fact, it's also where Dr. Mixter will run his practice out of. Dr. Mixter shows up, and we'll just for sake of a homage to the original and because of how meme-worthy the scene is, brought a coffee. He takes care of Annie, and they put her in the room, and we see the staff discussing the murders while we have a deputy sitting in a chair outside of Annie's door. We could have the paramedic that wants to go check on her, but the deputy, nobody's getting in there, and just leave it at that. and just follow some of the odd ins and outs of the hospital. We still have a similar scene with the nurse and the security guard. We kill both of them off. And just things getting weirder with the staff being totally oblivious till it's too late. And we are going to toy around with some of the deaths because I don't want everyone dead in the same way or through the same, just in this even a similar scenario. So we need to play this around some. Like, for example, rather than the therapeutic hot tub scene, we could have Axel perving on a nurse who's using her break to work out in the therapy room and them get killed in similar ways. In fact, in this continuity, I'm going to kill the nurse first, then she storms out of the room because Axel's being a perv. Then she gets grabbed and killed by Michael. Then Axel just puts some weights on a bench and goes to lift, and that's when Michael Rush walks in, and basically the long bar just goes careening onto his neck and kills him. And we have Sheriff Brackett going through town with Loomis. They get a call about a break-in at the school. And as they go into the school, we see a U.S. Marshal's car pull up and a woman get out the car door with the marshal. And in there, we have Samhain or Samhain written on the chalkboard. And on the teacher's desk, in blood, is written "Sister" with a knife stabbed into the desk. And we have a similar discussion. Then Loomis turns around and notices the marshal and Nurse Chambers, and we have a similar discussion. And he's told he's being recalled. It's all over the news. Doctor shooting at his patient. Sheriff Brackett goes, "Listen, I'm the law in this town, and if he's being recalled, he stays with me. I have jurisdiction here." And the marshal goes, "You don't have jurisdiction anywhere anymore, Brackett. It's Sheriff Brackett." "No, it's just Brackett. The word got out that you, while a killer is on the loose in your town, ordered a deputy to stay with your daughter who's safe at the hospital. Not only is the governor ordering Dr. Loomis taking in, but the governor has ordered your badge taken away. You're no longer a sheriff. You're just a civilian." And yeah, I forgot to point this out while I was making the video, but the marshal also points out the fact that one of your deputies did gun down an innocent man. That's all over the news too. Haddonfield is a complete mess and the governor wants it taken over. And at this point also pretty much everyone but the Haddonfields or the Warren County or whatever county it's in Sheriff's Department has jurisdiction. It's just a complete mess at this point. And he goes, "I'm going to ask you two the nice way to come with me, or we could do this the hard way." Brackett, being law enforcement, he understands, yeah, it's always easier to cooperate. I hate to say it, Loomis, but let's just listen to him. Maybe you can reason with him. And while they're in the car leaving town, we have the back and forth discussion. And Loomis is just fixated on the sister thing, and then Brackett's face goes white. "Dr. Loomis, there's something you don't know." "What don't I know?" "You know, shortly after the murders, the Myers signed off their parental rights, and after the trial, they left state." He goes, "I heard they left state." I really felt bad for them. Well, here's what you don't know. Me and my wife, Nancy, just a nod to Nancy Loomis, who played Annie Brackett in the original. We were good friends with the Myers, and we had been trying for years to conceive a child, and we couldn't. Well, we stayed in touch with the Myers. They had gotten pregnant, and after what happened, they just couldn't bring themselves to raise another child, so they called us and asked if we would like to adopt their child. It was a daughter we named Annie after my grandmother, and Loomis is starting to put it together. There's no way Brackett mentions, there's no way he could have known, but what if that's why he wrote Sister in Blood? Loomis, that's what he's doing here. I can't explain it, but there were times at Smith's Grove where he just knew things were happening. Like when he would be transferred, the way he handled it, it was like he always knew when certain things were going to happen. I can't explain it, but I think you're right. That's what he's doing here. The deputy's been recalled. Your daughter's defenseless. Marshal, you have to pull this around. I can't, doctor. I have orders. Then can you radio it in? They'll think I'm crazy if I do so. Then Sheriff Brack, Marshal, do you have a kid? Yes, I have a daughter myself. Well, if it was your daughter at the hospital right now, what would you do? He stops the car, looks back. All right, but here's how it goes. I'm in charge. You two listen to me. You got it? Then he turns and looks at Nurse Chambers, knowing she's friends with Loomis. And that goes for you too. And they agree, and he turns the lights on, pops the cherries and the sirens. And while this is going on, they're falling like flies at the hospital. Annie gets into a chase with Myers. At this point, she's going to be literally the only hospital staff left alive. Michael will have killed everyone. And then we have just, again, similar. She escapes, sees Loomis and company. They go into the lobby, and it's a double glass door. Michael walks through the door like he did in the original, only this time all three of them pull out their guns. Loomis, Brackett, who would have been given his gun back by the marshal, and they all shoot him. Myers falls over, and the marshal tells Nurse Chambers, go, call, get the authorities here, explain what happened, tell them you're acting under my authority. And Loomis, stay away from him! The marshal, relax, Doc, he's dead. And he goes to check for a pulse, and as soon as he reaches his finger under the mask, Michael grabs the scalpel he would have in his hand and killing the marshal. He gets up. Brackett goes to shoot only to have his gun empty, and Michael grabs him and throws him through the other window, and we see a pane of glass, some of the glass go through the side of his neck here, not hitting the jugular, but Brackett is out of the equation. Then we have the chase through the hospital with Loomis trying to keep Annie safe. And again, we play this out all similar at this point, only when they get into the oxygen room, we have Loomis stabbed, and then Lori grabs another scalpel from the not Lori, Annie. Sorry, I'm so used to it being Annie Lori from continuity that I almost forgot Annie's my survivor at this point. She actually grabs a scalpel and she slices at the mask, and she just cuts like right above where the eyebrows should be. And we still get the bloody tears, but it's not from Michael being shot in the eyes. And we do have a similar thing with the oxygen, the back and forth, and Dr. Loomis getting Annie out of Dodge before he grabs a Zippo. Because, come on, Dr. Loomis would not carry a Bic, he would carry a Zippo. He lights it, the room blows up, but we see Loomis actually just like blown through a wall, and the sprinklers go off and extinguish him, while Myers walks out on fire, falls over, same thing, sprinklers extinguish him. The end of the movie, we see Loomis is alive, Annie, more wounded than she was before she got to Haddonfield Memorial, is alive too, and my dad, and we have the one paramedic. Don't worry, miss. He's in rough shape, he's okay, but he's gonna make it. And then the last scene we see, rather than focusing on Annie in the ambulance, we have a gurney, Michael Myers strapped to it, and we just get some dialogue. Well, he's in a coma. Let's hope he doesn't come out. They stick him in to the ambulance, and we see his hand kind of, even though he's strapped, like, we just see his hand kind of move as much as it can, and we just see the fingers make a slight gripping motion, then go back to being limp, and the Halloween theme plays. Now, I've shaked a lot up in this story. I killed Laurie Strode off. I changed the brother-sister connection, made it to where there was no natural way Michael could have known he had another sibling, and kept it more ambiguous. He might be after his sister, but even if he is after his sister, I didn't answer that question without asking other questions in its place, like, how does he know he's his sister? Does he even know that's his sister, or is it just a coincidence? I did a lot similar, but I wanted to do enough to shake it up and make it its own thing without over-explaining Michael, without getting to see Michael's face. And I just thought this would have been an interesting way to do it. And I'm not arguing they should make a remake like this. I'm just hypothetically stating this is what me, the person, would do in the type of story I would tell if it was up to me, and it leaves the door open for a whole new generation of sequels that can tell their own story. In fact, for Halloween 3, I would still focus on Annie, but I would go with the high-rise apartment that they initially pitched for Halloween 3. So, what are your thoughts? Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Over and